Valve has officially released the rule set for the upcoming DPC 2019-2020 season. We'll run down what has changed and what new rule they have added. Overall, the changes were needed, and even if it's not perfect, it's a step in the right direction. So without further ado, here are the rules. This year, every team competing will earn DPC points, regardless if the teams make it into the major or minor. Any teams playing the regional qualifiers will earn them. Teams that are eliminated from the qualifiers will get 10 DPC points, and those who get to the end of the qualifiers and get eliminated will get 20 DPC points. The prize pool for the major and minor remains 1,000,000 and 300K. However, the winners of the major will receive 30% of the prize pool instead of last year's 33%, and they get 100 points less, which is redistributed down to the lower placed team. The minor remains unchanged, but they do get a boost of points from top to bottom. Another change are the qualifiers for the upcoming season. Instead of having individual qualifiers, the 5 major and the 5 minor will have the same qualifiers. Valve said, "We have combined both the major and minor qualifiers into a single, shorter, reducing complexity and time for players and organizers." It was combined to allow players to get rest and get their visas, Valve added. The qualifiers are split into 3 phases. Phase 1 takes 2 days to complete, and it will be 2 groups of 5 teams playing in best of 2 series. The top 8 teams with DPC points are invited. 2 spots are reserved for open qualifiers, and if there are not enough teams with DPC points, Valve will distribute them accordingly. So the top 2 teams that come out with the best record in their best of 2 matches will advance to Phase 2, while the other teams will be going to Phase 3. Phase 2 consists of 4 teams in a double elimination. The top 2-3 teams will qualify for the major, while the losing teams advances to Phase 3. Phase 3 will also consist of 4 teams double elimination, and the top 1-2 team qualify into the minor, while the rest will receive 20 DPC points. It's a bit confusing, but we'll get a clearer image as the season gets closer and when it gets underway. Now onto the format for the events. Both major and minor will be played in the GSL format double elimination. It will also have 2 phases. Phase 1 will have 4 groups consisting of 4 teams, and they will play in best of 3 matches, and the top 2 teams from each group will be going to the upper bracket, while the bottom 2 will be going to the lower bracket. In Phase 2, it will become a double elimination. The first round of the lower bracket will be a best of 1, then best of 3 to the grand finals, which then will become a best of 5. For the minor, it will be the same, but it will be 2 groups of 4 playing best of 3s. The top 2 teams from each group will advance to the upper bracket, while the rest will drop into the lower bracket. Phase 2 becomes a double elimination, and the first round of the lower bracket is the best of 1. Then best of 3 will follow until the finals when the 2 teams will fight it out in the best of 5. There's one big change this year for the minor winners. They will only get points for the tournament in which they place better. Winning the minor gives 140 points, but if the winners place higher than 12 in the major, they will get at least 150 points. Invitation to the international remains unchanged. The top 12 teams with the most DPC points will once again be invited, while the other 6 slots will be reserved for the regional qualifiers. As for the qualifiers, the top 8 DPC teams from each region with a full roster will receive an invite to the international qualifiers. DPC points are still earned to teams, unless the teams fold like what happened to 4 Gaming before TI9, so if players leave the team, the points they help earn does not follow them. Now onto player management. Teams are allowed to play with substitute players, but they must play with at least 4 players that are registered, and no penalty will be incurred for the qualifiers. They didn't say what happens if there is 3 or less, but speculations are that you can't compete. However, when it switches to the LAN portion, and if a team brings a substitute player, they will receive a 40% penalty onto the points that they earn from the tournament. A new rule added this year to counter teams trying to replace a player after qualifying is to penalize them. We've seen it happen at Chongqing Major and then MDL Disneyland Major last season.
Envy doesn't like me. I don't know about everyone else, but that's how I feel, at least on the team. That's how I felt on the last team. But it wasn't just Envy that kicked me. It was like all the 3 people remaining kind of like went together. But
if a team does replace a player, they will receive a 20% deduction in addition to the normal penalty. They didn't say what the normal penalty is, but if playing with a substitute has a 40% reduction, we can speculate that will be the normal, but teams will definitely try to circumvent instead of trying to replace a player. Valve has set a hard deadline for player movement, and they have to set it before the start of the final minor. They cannot draw players after that date, but they have a separate deadline to fill a full 5-man roster before 12 p.m. PST the following day of the last major's conclusion. Valve isn't done yet. They added another rule to ban players from playing the open qualifiers. if they work for teams that already qualified to the international or in the regional qualifiers. Here are the dates for all 5 qualifiers, so you don't miss out on any action. The first one was supposedly to begin on September 30th and will run through October 5th, but now Valve has moved the dates to October 5th to the 10th. The second one will be at the start of the holiday season on December 1st to the 5th. The third one is right before Valentine's Day on February 9th to the 14th. The fourth one is on March 29th to April 3rd. And the final one is on May 17th to the 22nd. Now that Valve has laid out all the dates, third-party organizers can organize non-DPC events around them. Plus, we haven't announced all the rosters yet. We still have a few weeks to go. Anything can still change, even for Valve. Once again, thanks for watching. If you got this far, don't forget to subscribe to help out, and we'll see you next week.